Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Art of Business English. This week we're going to continue with our series on travel, specifically at the airport. So this week we're going to look at passing the security check and the types of questions you may be asked, as well as what typical expressions and vocabulary you hear when you're boarding and departing on your trip. We'll also be looking at the immigration, on international flights. And the aim of this lesson is to help you basically understand all the different questions you are asked and make you feel more comfortable with the type of language that we typically hear at the airport. So if you're like me, then passing security can be very stressful. Personally, I hate the sensation of being profiled at the scanner, and then when they pull you aside and want to look in your bag, then it can be very nerve-wracking. So in today's lesson, you will learn the following: some vocabulary and expressions at security, immigration, and when departing, some typical questions you are asked and how you can answer them, and finally, just a few final tips for the trip. So let's get started with some vocabulary and expressions. So firstly, we're looking at security, immigration, and departure lounge vocabulary. In this section, I'm going to give you a very detailed list of vocabulary that you should know at the airport. This vocabulary is related to security, immigration, and the departure lounge, as well as boarding. So I'll give you the English, then the Spanish translation, and finally an example in context. So let's start by looking at the vocabulary that we would typically hear. So security control, which is control de seguridad. So all passengers must pass a security control before boarding. Documentation, documentación. All passengers must have their documentation in order. A visa, un visado. Some countries require a visa for all visitors. Duty-free, duty-free is duty-free or libre de impuestos, and everyone loves duty-free shopping. Customs. Customs is aduana. Most people have nothing to declare at customs. Passport is pasaporte. Losing your passport is a real problem. A passport photo is foto del pasaporte. And you should not smile for your passport photo. Immigration is in inmigración. And immigration officers must check your documentation. Immigration official is basically a funcionario de inmigración, and immigration officials are very serious. Passport control de pasaporte. You must go through passport control on all international flights. Security, seguridad. Security areas are very stressful. Passenger, pasajero. Passengers are advised to allow enough time to get to the gate. Flight is vuelo. So flights in summer are usually very busy. Delay, un retraso. Everyone hates flight delays. Gate. The gate is la puerta de embarque. Remember to allow enough time to get to the gate. Some gates require a shuttle or a train. Landing, aterrizaje. Flight crew prepare for landing. Plane, avión. The A380 is one of the biggest planes. Arrivals is llegadas. It's nice to have someone waiting for you at the arrivals gate. Runway is pista. The larger the plane, the longer the runway. Taxi. Taxi here is not a taxi as we know it. It is rodar por la pista. So all planes taxi before takeoff. Takeoff is despejarse, and takeoff is one of the most exciting parts of a flight. Departures are salidas. Taxis drop passengers at the departures entrance. Arrival time, hora de llegada. Arrival times can vary depending on many factors. Estimated time of arrival is tiempo estimado de llegada. So what's the flight's ETA? We use ETA as an abbreviation. Shuttle bus is una lanzadera, and Barcelona Airport has a shuttle bus between terminals, Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. The business lounge, la sala de espera reservada a la clase ejecutiva. So if you're business and first class passengers, you have access to free internet and food in the lounge. Transit lounge, this is una área de pasajeros en tránsito, and large modern international airports offer transit lounges to passengers changing flights. Tarmac. Now the tarmac is basically the pista, but it's also asfalto. So some flights disembark directly onto the tarmac where a bus is waiting. The flight number is important, número de vuelo. So you must memorize your flight number to make it easy to track your boarding time and gate number. Your boarding pass is the tarjeta de embarque, and you're asked for your boarding pass when you're boarding. Nowadays, you can store it digitally on your phone. Frequent flyer is un viajero frecuente, and spending money on your credit card can generate frequent flyer points. First class, primera clase. Traveling in the first class is generally only for the rich. And coach, which is American, is clase turista, okay? And this is where most people travel, okay? And the biggest complaint is lack of leg room. Crew is a tripulante, and the crew's job is to make your flight comfortable. Liquids, líquidos, you can only take up to 100 milliliters of liquid in your hand luggage. Check baggage, equipaje facturado. So if your bag is too big, then it must be checked, okay? Carry-on baggage is equipaje de mano. I always try and travel light with only carry-on luggage. Unattended baggage, equipaje sin supervisión. In most cases, unattended baggage can cause a security alert. Self-check-in. Self-check-in, I guess, is autofacturación. And many new airports allow passengers to do self-check-in to save time and money. And boarding time is the next one, that is hora de embarque. And keep an eye on the boarding time. It is usually 30 minutes before your departure. Begin boarding is empezar a embarcar. And young children are always called to the front of the line when boarding begins. Gate change is un cambio de puerta de embarque. Now, sometimes a gate change occurs before your flight, so keep an eye on the screens. Pilot is piloto. Your pilot usually welcomes you aboard the flight. Your flight crew is tripulante, and the flight crew give you instructions on safety. Flight attendant is azafata, and a flight attendant's job is to make sure you are enjoying your flight. And finally, the last word for the list of vocabulary is smoking area. Zona de fumadores. Most major airports have a designated smoking area, which is separate from the common areas. Okay, wow. What a list of vocabulary. I know, it seems long, doesn't it? So let's take a look now at the typical questions you're asked at different stages and how you can answer them. Okay, so we're going to start with questions and expressions at security. Okay, when you go through security, it can go basically one of two ways. You go straight through and nobody asks you a single question, or you get pulled aside and get hit with a barrage of questions. Let's look at the security area questions then. So, first one, is this your bag, sir, or is this your bag, madam? And a possible answer is yes, it is. Can you please come over here? Yes, of course. All right, typical question here is, did you pack this bag yourself? And you generally should say, yes, I did. Have you left this bag unattended at any time? The answer to this question should be no, not that I recall. Has anyone given you anything at any time? No, they haven't. Can you please open the bag? Yes, of course. Remember, of course, is por supuesto. Okay. Do you have any prohibited items? Not that I'm aware of could be a possible answer, or just no, I don't. Okay. Can you please take off your shoes? Okay. Yes, of course. So basically, if you're pulled aside for additional screening, then you'll be required to explain the contents of your bag. Okay. And some items in your bag may be swabbed for a drug test. Okay. So unless you have any prohibited items such as batteries, sharp items like scissors or knives, liquids or gels over 100 milliliters, sporting equipment, guns, self-defense equipment or items, tools, lighters and matches, then you pretty much should not have any problem and you'll be sent on your way. So here are some other more general expressions that you may hear in the security line. Okay. Please remove or take off your belt. Remember, belt is cinturón. Please remove any liquids from your luggage. Okay. Remember, we generally keep our liquids in a clear plastic bag. Okay. Step into the body scanner. Okay. Now many modern airports have body scanners. Hold up your arms, please, okay? Hold up your arms basically means raise your arms. No, subir los brazos, okay? Turn around is girar, okay? Take off your watch, please, okay? Quitar tu reloj, okay? And take off your jacket and hat, please, okay? Generally, we have to take off our hats or our jackets when we are going through the control. And finally, you could hear, place your laptop in a separate tray. Okay, so now for some advice. Now remember that working in security is a very tiring job. Okay, so security staff, they work long hours and they have to deal with a very large number of people. So if you're selected for additional screening, then always be friendly and follow the instructions politely. Okay, do not get angry or frustrated. And always say sorry if you've accidentally packed an item you shouldn't have. Sometimes we forget that we have something in our bag, okay? If it's a prohibited item, it'll be removed, okay? But most, acting a bit, dumb or innocent is probably the best way to avoid any problems, okay? So let's look at some questions and expressions when boarding and on the plane. So, now that we have passed security and done our duty-free shopping, it's time to depart. So let's take a look at the type of questions and expressions we can expect to hear when departing. So, first one, there has been a gate change. Okay, we need to listen carefully for gate changes. Personally, I just look at the screens, okay, and make sure that there's been no gate change. Next thing you might hear is Singapore Airlines flight SQ221 to Perth is now boarding at gate 56, okay? Again, I follow the screens. Please have your boarding pass and identification ready for boarding, okay? Now, this is very typical at the boarding gate, okay? We would like to invite our first and business class passengers to board. Secondly, we are now inviting passengers with small children and any passengers requiring special assistance to begin boarding. Then after that, they would generally do it by rows. So they would say something like, we would now like to invite all passengers in seat rows 15 to 32 to board. Okay, or we would now like to invite all remaining passengers to board. Okay, so just be ready for those. And then if there's a problem, you could hear, this is a final boarding call for Singapore Airlines flight SQ221 to Perth. And then if there's a name of a person who is late, you would hear something along the lines of, could passenger Brian Pierce please proceed to gate 56? Your flight is ready to depart. Okay, so those are typical at the boarding gate. When you're boarding the plane, you'll probably hear the following questions, okay? Just a few here. Could I see your passport and boarding pass, please? And your possible answer could be, yes, here they are. Excuse me, sir, what is your seat number? And your possible answer will be the seat number, so 17D, for example. Can I help you put your luggage in the overhead compartment? Thank you, but I can manage. That could be a possible answer. Overhead compartment is where you store your luggage, your hand luggage above you. And could you please fasten your seatbelt? And a possible answer for that could be sure or of course. So now that we've boarded and stuff, remember the next thing is that you're gonna disembark and then you're gonna have to go through immigration. So if you're on an international flight, you'll need to answer some immigration questions, usually when you arrive in your destination country. Okay, so you'll be tired, so you need to stay calm and be patient. So let's take a look at some of them in the next part of this episode. So, immigration questions and possible answers. Travel documents, please. Here you go. How long are you planning on staying in Australia? I'm here for 2 weeks. Where will you be staying while you are here? I'm staying at the Regent Hotel in Sydney. What is the purpose of your visit? I'm here on holiday or vacation. Or I'm here on business. What is your line of work? I'm an architect. So line of work basically means académicas, okay? So it's like, what type of work do you do? Are you planning on working? Sometimes immigration officers, especially in countries like Australia or England, will ask you directly, are you planning on working? Now, this is a trick question because they want to check to see if you will accidentally say yes, okay? Remember, it is illegal for you to work in many countries without a visa. So if someone says, are you planning on working? The answer should be no, okay? Are you traveling alone? Yes, I am here alone. Could be a possible answer. Do you have anything to declare? No, nothing to declare, okay? Or, yes, I have these bananas I bought in Singapore. Now, you need to be careful if you're declaring things because it will lead to a full bag search, okay? Do you have any prohibited items with you? No, I don't, okay? Is this your bag? Yes, it is. Could you please open your bag? Yes, of course. Okay, so remember that countries like Australia have very strict immigration laws. Okay, so you must not work without a visa and you must not bring any food items. You can't even bring in shoes that have been in contact with the forest. Okay, so Australian immigration officials will ask you some simple questions. However, they are very skilled at making you declare things you may have forgotten. If you bring prohibited items, they will be removed and destroyed. Okay, so it's important to remember that some countries are quite strict with immigration, okay? And you can get very nervous due to the environment in the immigration area or the customs area. So that's all for this section. Let's look at some final tips to finish up this episode. So remember, air travel and long-haul flights can be quite stressful. So try and stay calm and relaxed the whole time. If you're traveling with young kids, this can be quite a challenge. I've done it myself with kids who are very young, and it's quite stressful. The most important thing is to sleep when you can, drink lots of water, and allow plenty of time for passing security and immigration. In most international airports, security and immigration lines can be quite long, especially when it is a holiday period. In situations when you don't understand, try and use the things around you, like items. Point to them and see if that is what the staff member is asking about, okay? If you don't understand something, then it's best to just say, I'm sorry, I don't understand, okay? Don't ask them to repeat what they said. Ask them to describe it a different way. For example, you could say, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Could you say that slower? Or could you use easier vocabulary, okay? Finally, try and avoid all problems, okay, by making sure that you always pack correctly, okay? You should be aware of any visas you might need and any particular immigration rules for the country you are traveling to, okay? Because most problems at the airport arise when a traveler has done something that is against the rules, okay? So remember, if you have things in your bag that are prohibited or you shouldn't have, then that's going to lead to a really large amount of questions. And if your English level is a bit low, then it could be very stressful and you may not understand. So just try and avoid packing things even accidentally in your bag that you shouldn't. Well, that basically brings us to the end of the episode, okay? And I really hope you've found this information very useful. There are lots of great tips, vocabulary and expressions in this episode. And as always, if you have found this episode useful, then share it with your friends and family. We want to reach more and more people and help them improve their business English too. And if you would like to appear again on the Art of Business English podcast for some free live coaching, then get in touch. We would love to have some of our listeners on the podcast where we can work on any problems you may have with your English. And the best thing is we can share these solutions with other AOBE listeners. Well, till next week, take care and happy travels.